Business page. The Message Talk Show is back again. Yes, the Message Talk Show is back. We're back one more time again, broadcasting all the way from London. Wherever you may be this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, you may be in Australia, so it may be nighttime. You may be in the Caribbean, so it's a few hours ahead. Like my guest here, you might be in the USA, so it's early morning for you. So I'm just greeting you depending on where you are, where you're sitting, or you may be half asleep. So hey, I'm here to wake you up because this is a great day, and I'm looking outside and it's not raining. In London, it's not raining. The sun is shining. It's awesome. And if the sun is shining, it means that we've got to be on our best game. What do you say, Dr. Carr?
I agree with you. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, we have a very special guest in the house tonight. I'm talking tonight, my God. We have a very special guest in the house today, all the way from the USA. She's going to be sharing her wisdom and her knowledge. But before she comes in, let me just start off by saying, welcome to the Message Talk Show, broadcasting from London. We are passionate about change. We believe that entrepreneurs who are passionate about change, passionate about what they do, will bring change. That's the way change is going to hit our world. Yeah. That's the way change is going to make things happen, because you're passionate, you're mission-centered, and you're driven. So if you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, just connect with us, because we love content creators, we love teachers, we love consultants, we love coaches who are passionate about what they do. We help you to create your message. We help you to get your message out. And once you get your message out, I tell you, the world is ready to hear your message. So guys, tune in to the Message Talk Show on a Thursday, 11 o'clock, weekly, every week on a Thursday morning. So if you don't tune in to the live, get the replay. And if you don't get the replay, then hey, some Friday nights, I do have a watch party. So there's a party for you to come and attend. So guys, welcome to the house this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, depending on where you are, our guest by the name of Dr. Rochelle Carr. Say hi, Dr. Carr.
Hello. Woo! Happy to be here. So excited to be here.
Hey, this lady comes from an organization called Path Forward Empowerment. Dr. Carr, tell us what Path Forward Empowerment means.
Path Forward Empowerment is a place where you can envision becoming more than you could ever think. We are about purpose creator. I call myself a purpose creator because I help people go within to find their purpose, to create their story. Everything that you need to know about growing and getting to your goals is already inside of you. So what I do is help you. So we put you on a path so you can continuously move forward.
What do you mean that everything I need is inside of me? People are running around looking for things under the bushes, in drugs, looking for so many different things, trying to find it. And you're telling us that all this time it's inside of us. What do you mean by that?
When you were created, when you were born, it was inside of you. You just need somebody to tap into your essence, your consciousness, to help you navigate to the place that you are created to be. Where you're created to be is inside of you. You just need somebody to help you get it out of you.
See, this lady is already warming up. She is warming up to what she's going to say. She's got it there now. She is warming up. But before we dive any further, I'm just going to play a message from our sponsor. You are listening to the Message Talk Show and podcast. Do you believe you have something to share? Do you believe you have something to contribute? Do you have a story to tell the world, to share with your community? Gandhi said, man often becomes what he believes himself to be. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So join us on the Message Talk Show and podcast with host Alex Gordon. So Dr. Carr, what got you to this point? Now, You said earlier there's a story there. So what's your story? What got you to this point in your life where you created Path Forward, trying to empower people?
Well, 3-4 years ago, I did a TEDx talk called collard greens, chicken, coffee, and cake. And it was about lessons that I learned around the table from my grandmother. We called her Big Mama. And one of the things that she taught us, she empowered us when we ate meals together, was always about empowering us. How do you continuously to live your life? She said, I'll be long gone, but my legacy to you is that you be the people that I'm creating, meaning that I'm teaching you to be. So those lessons that she taught me around the table, respect, how to influence people. I just started using that, but my grandmother would be like, who you are and how you present yourself to others leads people. You are a leader. My grandmother used to tell me always, don't hang with the chickens. You're an eagle. Get an aerial view of life so you can go further than the chick. She says, nothing wrong with the chickens, but you're created to be an eagle. And so I've taken that empowerment to always move forward and then to help other people. And so that's what put me on this trajectory to soar.
Well, if I can remember with my grandma's lessons weren't very easy, because when she's telling you to do something, she's teaching you, it's a hard lesson. Am I right?
It's a hard lesson, but it's around a good meal, it goes down a little easier. It goes down a little easier. And it was so good around the table is that we got to ask questions, and we were asked questions. People, you knew when they said, how's your day? They meant it. Like, what did you learn today? Don't get in trouble at school. What did you learn from that? Now, what do you think your outcome should be? So preparing for the even consequences in life that I learned from just sitting around the table. And so those are the things that I have taken with me, that I put into my business, I put into my trainings and speaking, is that it's inside of you. Now let's tap into it and make it grow.
Wow. Isn't it amazing? You mentioned there about sitting around the dining table and having that conversation. That's probably where we're going wrong these days. We're so busy, we have no time for the dining table. Everybody just has a plate and cot in front of the TV, or do you know what I mean? It's really changed these days. What made that? What was so strong in those days? Why grandma made sure that people were seated around the table to have that conversation? What was it?
Relationship. And that's what we're missing today, is relationship. But from February to now, COVID-19 has brought us back to the table. And we are learning that, yes, we are learning. And I hear so many people say, well, I miss that time. I miss that time with my family. I miss that time of learning. I miss that time of listening. And so I think that out of the good of this, if we could, find good, is that we are now coming back to who we were created to be, relational beings.
Wow.
And under that umbrella of being relational, we begin to learn from each other. And that's leadership. You just don't know it all. But even from the table, I learned stuff from my 8-year-old nephew, who, I call him a little scholar, but I learned from him. Wow. And I use his stuff on stage.
You use your 8-year-old nephew's stuff on stage.
Yes.
You better tell him to patent his stuff now, man. Or he needs to protect his intellectual property.
I give him credit.
You give him credit. Okay.
I give him credit for it. I put his picture up. I tell people I give it from it. But even from that, I mean, I learned about, he taught me something about perspective. I use that, and so from the mind, out of the mouth of babes, we can also learn. And I think that we have to begin to listen again. We talked about the shift in leadership. If you want to be a good leader, one of the first things is that you got to listen. As you invite people to come to the table, don't invite them just because it's you want them there, But you have to listen, have empathy, hear them, listen to them, and make sure they know that you value them for being there. And I think that hopefully in this time we're learning to come back to being relational, being who we're created to be.
Wow, that's amazing. This time has taught us one thing: is to come back to the table. That's a conference topic in itself. That can speak. Come back to the
Let's do.
table.
I'm ready. Let's do it. Let's do
Come back to the
it.
table.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that title already. Come back to the table. So if we're talking about the shift in leadership today, folks, and we're speaking to Dr. Rochelle Carr from the USA, and let's try and understand if the definition of leadership has changed over the years. What would you say the definition of leadership is today?
I don't think the definition has changed as the people that are in leadership, and understanding that leadership is not about a title. And I think that that's where we've gotten stuck, is that you're only a leader if you have a title. But leadership is about influence and your ability to empower others. And if you're not doing that, whether you are making millions as CEO or whether you are, the administrator it doesn't really matter. What it matters is, who are you connecting with? Who are you influencing? And who are you empowering? Because that's leadership. Manage is directing, like a traffic person, directing. No,
Okay.
no connectivity, no nothing. It's you're standing out there saying, go, 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 come, 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 move, move, move. But leadership, true leadership, is about the ability to connect with people, the ability to influence them, the ability to empower them, so then they can still repeat that model, not keep it, but keep going. And that's how you know that you're a good leader. And that shift, because I like that, is happening is when somebody else repeats that model. That's leadership. So
Wow.
leadership hasn't changed, but the people who have now mismanaged leadership, the title of it or what it means, that's the issue.
So basically, what you're trying to tell me is that we've somehow confused the styles of leadership as well.
Yes.
Because the style of one person compared to another is somehow very different in the way they lead, or the way they've been taught to lead.
Yes.
And the way it's demonstrated. And therefore, we then think that the way that person's leading, that's it.
Yes.
But I was privileged to understand that you are part of a global network of leaders who are traveling around the world and doing leadership training and development. In coming from the eyes of your mentor, coming from the eyes of your mentor, he said that if you are leading and you look behind you, there's no one following you, then you're just taking a walk.
That's it. Yes.
But if people are following you, but can people sometimes follow you for the wrong reasons?
Of course. Yes. They're following you because you're in the limelight. They want to be popular too. They're riding on your coattail. And they figured if the light shines on you, the light might shine on them. So for the wrong reason. But then that goes back to understanding the people that are following you. And if you are if you are giving them the things that they really need, or if you are bringing them to the table and helping them get to a place where they are respected, because respect is not just automatically given. It's something that we earned. And if you are able to bring them to the table, cultivate them like a flower, cultivate them, turn over the soil, then they'll be able to grow. So then they'll understand that it's not about just following to be in the limelight, like, oh my gosh, this person is popular. If I hang close to them, one day I can be on the stage. One day I can, be in their, in their circle. No, it's about, again, influencing other people so that they can get to their purpose, so that they can grow too, grow others, connect. And we just keep going to make this world better. And I think that's the ultimate thing. But yeah, it's a lot
But
of people taking a walk and they're puffed up and they're managing, but they're not leaders. And it's a lot of people, like you said, that are, got a lot of people behind them, but they don't really mean you any good. They just there for the popularity.
wow. So we're confusing style of leadership and popularity because we want to be in the limelight.
Of course, you want them to call your name, say, oh yeah, that's, Dr. Carr. and that's the problem. And you know what? It doesn't matter if this person is on the big stage or they got 5 people following them. Sometimes our egos get in the way.
Yes.
And that's another issue that with leadership is that our egos get in the way. Somebody's, oh, you did a good job. Yeah. And we get puffed up. You just got 2 people following. You got 2 people on Instagram. You got 1 person on Facebook, and you are now the greatest leader in the world. And you're not helping anyone, because nobody knows you.
So we're building our social media platforms, not really influencing people in a very positive way, but just feeding off what's happening, feeding off the fact that people are following you or just listening to you every day. That is terrible. That is terrible. So how can we today? No, let me just take you back, because when in the middle of the pandemic, the Black Lives Movement suddenly it didn't suddenly arise, but the death of George Floyd triggered something across the world, triggered something in the States first, and then the Black Lives Movement, the Black Lives Matters movement, were able just to connect people right across the world to stand up and start demonstrating. We've never seen that kind of leader. We've never seen that kind of movement before that was so effective in mobilizing people. Why do you think that happened?
When I tell this to people, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you begin to do something. And I think that was the whistle on the tea kettle.
Wow.
When that happened. And I think that I know it just became a boiling point across the world.
Wow.
People are tired of senseless killing by the people that are supposed to be protected in leadership, that's supposed to be protecting us, that's supposed to a part of serving our community. And I think that it just became a boiling point with tired of the government, tired of race. It was just too much. And I think that when I had a conversation with someone that, marched with King, and they were saying, we need to teach our young people how to march and not be violent. And we need to teach them how to be silent. I was like, different generation. And when you are marching and it's everybody's civil rights, everybody, or you're marching because you're tired of every other day single for just no reason. I said, these young people are tired and they're hurt and they want to be heard. Not condoning the violence, the burning down building, but they're angry, and anger sometimes causes us to do things that later on we'll regret.
It's crazy.
But I need my voice. That's what I need my voice to be heard. I need to be able to walk down the street and not be afraid of being murdered. And the psychological, we're 400 years out of slavery. We're still psychologically injured. And now it'll be another 400 years before hopefully our children's children will not be psychologically injured. I saw the other day this video that's going viral. I can't remember where this young kid was, I think he's 9. He's outside playing basketball. The police car just was driving down the street, and he hid, a 9-year-old child, hid behind the car because he didn't want the police to see him. So we are already damaging another generation in putting them in mental slavery. And so, yes, people are tired. And I think across the world, the injustice of not just here, but things that, you know, we don't hear over in the States that's going on across, you know, in other countries, people are tired, just tired.
Well, I saw something for the first time, and I remember, you know, I can remember the marches that we've had in London many years ago, the Stephen Lawrence occasion. You know, his mum, Doreen Lawrence, campaigned for nearly 20 years to seek justice for him. But what happened the other day, I heard companies coming forward and apologizing for slavery.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
In my entire life. I've never heard companies, you know, who were involved in slavery many, you know, 400 years ago, the guys stand up and start apologizing for the behavior of their predecessors.
Yeah.
What do you think caused that?
Well, my grandmother would say a come to Jesus meeting.
Yes, okay.
I think when you have your consciousness, the deep part of your consciousness wakes up, you begin to see the wrongs of not only what you do, but what has happened. And I think people are waking up, their subconscious, the consciousness of people are waking up. Here, you know, all of the Confederate things are being taken down in the US. North Carolina, I just saw this one on the news, they still had a lynching pole up.
My God.
A lynching pole. So they took the lynching pole down.
Wow.
It doesn't erase the history because these things are being taken down. But I think we need to be educated as to the isms of why these things happen, and why it has taken so long, even for Black people to rise up to say enough is enough. You know, we came out of the 60s, but now in 2020, why am I still looking at a lynching pole in the middle of downtown, in front of the courthouse?
In front of the courthouse.
In front of the courthouse, I believe. But they dug it up. Whipping pole, excuse me. Wasn't a lynching, it was a whipping pole. Still doesn't make it any better, but it was a whipping pole.
Symbolic. Yeah.
Yes. And so a daily reminder of the injustice and the humiliation and dehumanization that Black people suffered and are still suffering today. And so I think when Dr. William Barber here has his whole thing is the Poor People's Campaign, a big major movement. And one of the things he says is that it's not about taking down the poles or taking down the statues, but it's about changing the laws that hurt the humanity of human beings every day. So you can take down a statue, you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to take down the statue, but you won't feed a community of people that are underprivileged and starving. And so where still is the justice of that? And so I think everybody's just, the anger of the injustice is happening right now. And it's no longer can be hidden. Internet, TV, I mean, you just can't hide it anymore, you know, so.
Well, I mean, and what's happened now, I've seen conversations starting to take place across the world and in London as well, whereby companies are starting to, individuals within companies are starting to have the conversation about what can they do? What should they be doing inside their organizations to somehow change the way they lead, shift their leadership, and start addressing the inequalities that we're talking about? What would you recommend?
I think your company has to be more diverse. And it's not just a sprinkle here and a sprinkle there, but the company has to look like the world in which we live, number one. And then you need to continuously educate people on what does it mean to work in a diverse place? What does that look like? How do I honor your culture when it's not like mine? How do I honor your beliefs when it's not like mine? And I think that we are so intolerant. We're not, we live in a culture where, if you don't think like me, act like me, look like me, I think there has to be sensitivity training. I think that there needs to be a place where people can feel free to have discussions about race. We don't want to we just want to can we all get along? No, we cannot. I mean, in a sense of we need to come again, going back to that table of having the hard conversation, and we don't want to have those conversations. And I think leadership, companies, right now is a good time if you are a diversity coach to go into those and do some trainings to help people understand what does that look like in your organization. So
see, what worries me was that I can remember we've been through that initial period whereby there's a sudden consciousness. And I remember we had a whole racial equality section in the UK, and racial diversity was something that they were pushing and they were training, and for some reason it just died out. It happened, but it just died out. So it's more than just the training. It's more than how can you make something live in an organization and become part of the core value of the organization? That means it perpetuates itself from one generation to the next.
It starts with the top. And again, it goes back to having that consciousness change. And so when the leadership changes, when the CEO changes, when the person that's leading changes, then we're able to see change. We're able to see this pretty much not a lack of, but an understanding that if the leader sets the culture of the organization. And if the leadership culture or the leadership is continuously perpetuating racism and injustice, then that's the organization. So that person has to have a consciousness change in order for the organization to change.
How do we then bring about a consciousness change in leadership? Nice. That sounds like a tall order.
We're marching. we're marching.
We're marching. Okay.
And I think our voices, again, I heard what you said, and I think about 9/11. And after 9/11, how churches filled up, how, everybody hand in hand, walking, come together. And then all of a sudden, 5 years, 10 years later, we're already divided again. Because it was surfaced. It was just surface love. It was just surface, can we get along? It's just surface, can I come together? There has to be a awakening in our minds. And I think the only way that can happen is, again, we continue to let our voices be heard. We're not taking it anymore. And I have to be heard. And so I got to keep talking. I got to keep letting people know that what you're doing to me is wrong.
So we're back to what your grandma was saying, like the come to the table.
That's it. Come to the table.
We need come to the table moments across the UK, across the world, in every corporation. A come to the table moment. Oh, wow, that is powerful. because unless you're having a come to the table moment, then it can't sink, can it?
No. And
The
I think
consciousness will not
people, yeah.
receive it.
And you have to hold the mirror up to not only yourself, but sometimes you got to flip it and let other people see themselves. I went to this event.
Say that again. Say that again. Now that's powerful. Say that one again. Go on. Say it
Sometimes
again.
not only do you hold the mirror up to yourself, but you have to flip it and hold it up to others so they can see themselves.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And so I went to this event where centered around the meal at a table, and we had a conversation, and everyone around the table, it was all mixed races around the table. They had 5 questions. You had to talk, hard questions. And at that moment, there were people, white people, that were getting so angry, not at the other races, but at themselves, at each other, because of these questions. But it was at the table that we were able to have these conversations. At the table of this guy saying, I'm so angry that they're taking down the Robert E. Lee statue downtown. And then another person was saying, I don't get why you're angry. It's a symbol of racism. No, you don't know what it. And so this whole conversation, but again, it was at the table that we were able to hash out our differences.
And that is so important what you just said there about hashing out the differences.
Yes.
So it's not wrong to be angry. It's not wrong to feel angry, because from your perspective and where you're coming from, you see it as something from your viewpoint as wrong, whereas the other person saying, well, hang on a minute here, what's brought you to that conclusion?
Yeah.
And by constantly having that conversation, we then find the middle ground
to
appreciate.
Yes.
To appreciate.
And you then start this dialogue. Like this guy, the guy at the table, he's an older gentleman, about, I don't know, I won't say his age, but he's older. And white gentleman, we still email each other. He said, I just want to check in. How are you feeling about what's going on right now?
Wow.
And we still dialogue. We still ask each other the hard questions, because I can look in the mirror and say, I'm angry, and this is why I'm angry. Then I can flip it, and he can ask me, why are you angry? And then I flip it back, so we can have this mirror conversation and get to a common census as to what's going on, and it's a great thing. But again, at the table is where we can come to or learn these lessons that begin to change our consciousness.
This is a white person that's connecting with you. I'm asking you how you feel about what's going on.
Yes. He
checking in regularly.
Yes. He said to me at the table, he said, I don't understand why people are so upset about the Robert E. Lee statue. And I'm like, ooh, what? He said, I named my son Robert E. Lee. Oh, okay.
Wow.
He said, I love the history of Robert E. Lee. And I said, well, let's talk about this. So we've talked about, they've taken the statue down, but we continue to talk about his anger toward Black people or other white people that wanted the statue taken down, And so how do you navigate that? Because that's one little piece of anger that begins to grow, that now I'm angry at every Black person. But if I could have a conversation with you at the table to say, I understand how you feel. I can only imagine how that would make you feel. But now I want you to see my side of it. I want you to understand why it hurts me that we honor someone that, dehumanized, had slaves, dehumanized, that whole history. And the light went off. And I said, I understand you. I just want you to understand me. And so again, we continue this dialogue, even today, about everything that's going on. I get to see from, almost I think he's almost 70-year-old white guy, he gets to understand from me. So it's a good dialogue. It's a good dialogue. And so he's an
No.
attorney. He was like, King, would you come and talk to my partners? I was like, I would
Wow.
love to have a conversation with them. So
Wow. So that's what's missing from our society today.
yeah.
The cross-cultural conversations
Yeah.
are not happening. Wow. I'm just digesting what you've just said. Because it's so powerful for someone to be sitting down and actually having that conversation with you about how you feel and expressing how they feel and not judging you,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow finding the middle ground to alleviate the pressure on himself. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So guys, we're talking today with Dr. Rochelle Carr from the USA, talking about the shift in leadership. And she's been talking about what's happening in the world, what's happening around us. And I noticed that you've posted some comments, guys. So let me go to the comments from the audience at the moment, just to see what they've been saying. Now, let me get this right. So here we go. Leadership is not about the title, it's about the ability to connect, influence, and empower others. Correct. We agree with that, don't you, Dr. Carr?
Yes.
Pat Denton's grandma has inspired her to gain the necessary skills for leadership and still live by these principles. Isn't that amazing about grandma? Grandmothers are the key to our grandmothers are the
Yes.
key to leadership development and training. We somehow have missed the teachings of our grandparents.
We don't sit at the table.
Our Anasia says we need a consciousness change in leadership. We need a consciousness change in leadership.
Yes.
Let's go back on that point again, because that one is that consciousness change does not happen overnight.
No,
it's not a momentary change. How do you believe that conscious change can be brought about?
Conversation. Again, that mirror. If I'm not willing to look at the mirror myself, look at where I'm wrong, look at where I need to do changing, I can never flip it over to let somebody else look at it. And so it has to start with me. And I think in understanding being a good leader is that it has to start with you. So when it starts with me, then I'm able to then digest what the other person is saying. Just my willingness to engage in the conversation. 5 years ago, I wouldn't be willing to engage in the conversation. It's growth. But continuously working on myself and being open, getting to that place of being open, changing my consciousness, just having the conversation helps me, helps them, helps the people around. Because now you'll go back and have this conversation. Hey, I was having a conversation with this young lady, if he forgot my name that moment, but I was having this conversation. And this is something she said. So now he's sitting around at the country club, playing golf, having a good scotch. And guess what his conversation is? I'm having a conversation with Dr. Rochelle Carr. And these are some of the things that we're talking about with his friends that don't look like me. And so they begin to engage in the conversation, and then no longer can they tell the jokes because now his consciousness is awakened. They can no longer say certain things because now his consciousness is awakened. And so it's about the dialogue. And when the dialogue happens, not on the surface level. So now we've gotten your attention. We've marched. We've shouted. Now let's have a conversation. Now let's really dialogue with my neighbors to tell you this is why I'm angry. My neighbors on my street were like, are you okay? You all right? When all of this was happening, I was like, I'm angry, and we had conversations, and they were like, I'm angry too. And I said, why are you angry? Because I need you to articulate why you're angry. Because tomorrow when you walk down the street, tomorrow when you drive your car, you're most less likely to be stopped. So what's fueling your anger? And I can tell you what's fueling mine so we can both get a good understanding. It's about, again, having a conversation, awakening the consciousness of people.
And what was the answer that you were given by your neighbors?
I just don't like people to take, it was a senseless death, really surface. And so I couldn't push them real hard because they had a couple of libations, but we're going back to the conversation. So, but I think for the most part that some people just don't know what to say. So they mirror what you're saying. Oh, I'm angry too. It's just really sad what happened. But when you challenge them to commit to why they're angry, commit to why it was such a bad situation. We all know it was a bad, but why do you think it was bad? Why are you angry? What are you going to do next? Then go back to your friend circle, and then have this conversation, because your children drive down the street and they can speed off at 35 and the police at the corner and they won't stop them.
Nobody's going to stop them.
But somebody else can speed off and hit the corner and they're going to be stopped. Do you think that's fair? So just really asking the hard questions. And I think that that's something now we should be doing. We should be having those deep conversations and not be afraid of the answers that even we get back.
Wow. But you were saying something about you said the person that they were reflecting what you were saying, but is it because they were afraid of what they're thinking and for that to come out? They're scared of what might come out of their own mouth.
Yes, of course. Yes. Oh yeah. I think that when you don't know that you don't know who you really are, when things like this happen, it becomes visible.
Wow. So let me put that in context now. So what you're saying, there's a large element of our population who don't really know who they are. They're busy with their careers, they're busy doing different things, they're busy functioning, but they don't really know who they are.
Yes, of course. They wear masks. They hide behind the mask. They get home, they pull it off so they can be who they are. But when they're functioning at a place where they have to get along, they put the mask on.
So they walk in functional responsibility, but it's surface.
Surface, yes.
So that means they're not really having deep conversations with their fellow colleagues at work, even about what's happening to them, what's happening in your life, or how's your personal life affecting your work. There's no conversations going on.
No conversation, not at all. If you work on a job, work at a job, and you are a person of color, and no one from your organization has picked up the phone, sent you an email, sent you a text about how you're doing in this atmosphere right now, not COVID-19, but since George Floyd, you all understand the culture of where you work. If you are a person of color,
let me slow you down. Let me slow you down there. Let me just slow you down there, right? And go back on that point.
Okay.
Say that again.
If you are a person of color, we're gonna say black people, but I'll say color, but black people.
Yeah.
And you work on a job and none of your colleagues has picked up a phone, text you, email you just to see how you're doing, you should understand the culture of your workspace.
Wow. That is amazing, because there should have been some sort of consciousness to think, how are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing?
If you wave at me every day, yes. If you wave at me every day, hey, Rochelle, how are you today? I'm wonderful. How are you? But then all of a sudden, all of this happens. And we're on Zoom meetings, we on conference call meetings, and you never say, hey, Rochelle, how are you doing in the midst of this? Just want to check in on you.
Wow.
That's the
But
culture of your organization.
you do know that sometimes when people say to you, "How are you?" they're not expecting you to answer.
Of course. That's why they don't look at you when they ask you. That's why they
Because
do not look at you when they ask you, "Oh, how are you doing?" It's like, "Oh my God, please don't let them answer." Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
This
And
is
then we
this is
wonder why the workspace, our teams, that there's no continuity on our teams and on our workspace, because that's the culture. And when things happen, it comes out. It just comes to the surface. But but if you have a culture of people respect each other, a culture where we are really here for each other, then I am concerned about you. You're concerned about me. I'm concerned about you. But that starts at the top. That type
wow.
of culture, creating that type of culture of awareness and accountability and values, and it starts at the top, and it has to
But
trickle down, because I hire people that are like me.
hmm. But I know that it should come from the top, but 90% of change that happens in our world tends to come from the bottom.
That's true. But however,
The foot soldiers drive the change.
yeah, well, that's true. I agree with you on that. However, when you have people that come in, because I have worked with a couple of people that are struggling, they come into a culture, a bad culture of an
Mm.
organization. They come in and they are, oh my God, I want to go in, I want to develop my people, I want to move, I want to shake. And all of a sudden they hit that brick wall. Then they hit it again. And they hit it again. The brick wall never moves because the culture is so bad. And they're like, okay, I can't move. So what happens? That momentum starts to slow down. And
Wow.
eventually they get tired.
Wow.
So oftentimes, yeah, there are people that are on the middle level, or, entry, that are trying to create change, trying to move and stuff. But all of a sudden, when they hit that wall, you can only hit it so much before you just kind of lose your momentum. And so
Wow.
either you pack your bags and leave, or you
Wow.
become part of that culture.
Wow. Dr. Carr, this is we could go on for another 2 days. We could run a conference on this. We could talk for days on this. About the consciousness, about the change that's required. But if you were to sum this up and to give a strategy for individuals and corporations to start taking this very serious, to start taking this shift very seriously, so that 2 to 3 to 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we begin to see, or we're seeing the effect of what happened this year, what would you recommend the 3 or 4 steps they should be taking?
I do a talk that says everything that I learned in life, I learned in kindergarten. And it starts with respect. Bottom surface line, respect. Resourceful, ethical, selfless, purposeful, caring, and teachable. And if we want our world to change, we got to get back to respecting each other, being resourceful, meaning the least of them, helping them, being engaged in helping every human being get to their purpose. We have to be able to be ethical, make good choices. We're not perfect, but make good choices. And stop. We've become such a selfish world. We need to be more selfless. We need to help humankind. We need to be able to be purposeful, be meaningful, to help. Again, it goes back to listening, hearing, and helping others. Caring. We don't care about people anymore. It's some people that can live on the street for 20 years and you don't even know your neighbor's name next door. So we have to become more caring, and then we have to be teachable. I think as leaders, when we talk about the shift in leadership, we have to be teachable. You continue to learn until the day you close your eyes. Always be teachable, always learning from other people, always coming back to the table to get life lessons so that you can be better, so that you can empower others. And not only empower others, that you can influence another generation to be better than what you were, to be better than what they could be. We got to influence, we got to empower. But most of all, we got to respect. Got to respect. So that's what I would leave today.
You know, I was busy with my notepad just writing this down, man. I said, I've got to record this down. There's no way I could just sit here and not make a note of this thing. Respect, man. Oh man, that's amazing. I did say three, and that's what 6.
I gave you a little bit of my podcast that I'm doing today. I do a coffee break, a 15-minute coffee break. And today we're talking about does your team respect you? And so that's a part of that, about respect. And so I gave you a little bit of that. So yes.
No, that is amazing. That is amazing. Thank you so much for that. It is so powerful. You know, it's the simple things in life that we sometimes tend to forget.
Yes.
The simple things in life that we sometimes tend to forget. And it's the simple things that brings the answer that we're looking for in the world. So today we've been talking to Dr. Rochelle Carr, man, and we just got carried away talking, man. We didn't want to stop, man. We didn't want to stop the conversation because we know that it's the conversation that's going to bring the shift in leadership.
Yes.
It's the conversation that's going to help us to be more conscious of what we're doing, look at our core values, understand where we're coming from, and you know, come back to the table. Oh, come back to the table, man.
Yes.
Man, I got so many tips from you today, man. This is come back to the table, man. The next time I speak, I'm gonna have to be giving you credit for some of this stuff, man. Come back to the table.
I see a conference coming up calling come back to the table. You can co-organize it and we can put it out there, Alex. So I see it. Let's make it happen, and I'm ready.
Man, come back to the table, man. This is amazing. This is amazing stuff, folks. You know, I don't know if you got anything today from this, but we have certainly got a lot of information from Dr. Carr today about the way we should be operating, the shift in leadership that's happening, and the shift that should be purposeful, the shift that should be based on respect. It's important that we drive this change as a generation. And you know, I'm coming up to the senior years now. You know, there's more behind me than in front of me. There's more behind me than in front of me now. So the wisdom has to start coming out, doesn't it? Yeah. But before we go today, I just wanted to have a word from the sponsor. And don't go, Dr. Carr. Don't disappear just yet.
Oh.
You are listening to the Message Talk Show and Podcast. Do you believe you have something to share? Do you believe you have something to contribute? Do you have a story to tell the world, to share with your community? Gandhi said, man often becomes what he believes himself to be. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So join us on the Message Talk Show and Podcast with host Alex Gordon. So Dr. Carr, how can people get in contact with you?
Email me at info at pfempowerment.com. You can Facebook. Facebook. There. Thank you, because I was gonna have to really think. I was like, oh my God, I gotta really, really think. So yes, there I am right there. Yes. You're gonna make me think harder. I was like, oh my God, that's so. And look, and something said, write your social media stuff down. Write it down. And I was like, oh. I can remember it. So yeah.
And there's a 2 last words that came up today. Oh, much love to. Oh my God, Dr. Gordon.
Dr. Gordon. Yes.
I never thought I had a title. Sorry, Dr. Carr. I never thought I had a title. But before we go, Dr. Carr, we talked about your book previously, and you haven't mentioned your book at all.
Oh, okay. Look. Ooh.
Just hold it up, bring it closer to the camera, and just tell us about the book.
It's a 30-day meditation, overcoming my malnourished soul, and it is just a simple book. You read, quiet time. It takes you through the whole meditation of what you need to do, and it's just a time to just kind of reflect and reset. I wrote it out of a time where I was like, I need help, and every day for 30 days. Well, it took me longer than 30 days to write a 30-day book, which I didn't think it would, but it's a life-changing book, and I think it's simple. It's 2 minutes. It's not long per day, and it'll change.
Okay, let me rephrase that for you. Yeah, Dr. Carr, this book is going to help reset you. Yes, it's going to change your life. It's going to raise your consciousness. It's the book that you must read. You get up every day and you read it daily. You digest it daily, and you will see results within 30 days. Is that what you're saying, Dr. Carr?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. I got to work on my marketing. That's exactly.
No. That book. Where can the book be found?
You can go to Amazon, or you can email me and I can ship it to you. But you can go to Amazon. It's on Amazon.
Hey, Dr. Carr, it's been a pleasure speaking to you today.
Thank you.
It's been an awesome conversation.
Love the conversation at the table.
And come to the table across the world. That's the campaign, guys. Yeah. Come to the table in your community. Just tell everyone, let's go to the table. Come to the table. Yes. Come to the table at church. Come to the table in the town halls. Come to the table in government. Come to the table at school. Come to the table everywhere. And let's start this conversation and keep this conversation going to raise our consciousness. Yes. To cause the shift in leadership that we're looking for, and that's what's begun in our lives. Hey, Dr. Carr, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for being your best self from PF Empowerment.
Yes.
Thank you guys for tuning in today. Come back Thursday, 11 o'clock, to the Message Talk Show and Podcast with host Alex Gordon. And we interview some of the best people across the world who've got ideas and views that are changing the world, because passionate people